How is hell fair? Now, that's got to be the ultimate question, or at least one of the ultimate questions. How is hell fair? Well, imagine the soul is eternal, and a man elects to keep his sin. Imagine that death is the point to where the soul is forever fixed. Then sin would grow in that soul forever and would be lost to that trait for all eternity. Now, imagine the sin that we see in ourselves as not worthy of eternal hell, but in its eternal growth becomes more and more worthy. Now imagine God allowing that soul, all of those souls, into his kingdom to associate with his children, those who he loves and who loves him. That wouldn't be paradise. Not for anybody. Now I imagine that people think that they are basically good. I mean, they do. I mean, ask them. They'll tell you that. But the more sin that they allow into themselves and into their community, the more they adapt to these sins, the more that they feel comfortable in them. And I think the more they seem to think that hell is unjust. But we know that God's standards don't change just because men's do. And it's just that this spiraling downward human traits or human standards simply act like the frog in the warm water. That when you turn up the heat slowly, they don't ever seem to really notice how hot the water is getting. How grievous their sin really is. Now, I believe hell is real and that it's eternal. Jesus spoke a lot about hell. In fact, that's what he came to save us from. Now, if hell is literally that burning forever fire and brimstone place of Dante's depiction, and it may be, the far more grievous element of hell would be the separation from the attributes of God. Matthew Henry, of Matthew Henry's Concise Commentary, speaks of this when he speaks on 2 Thessalonians 1:9. He says this: as the presence of the glorified Jesus will constitute the happiness of heaven, so banishment from his presence will constitute the misery of hell, because the soul is then cut off from the source of all good and of all holiness. He seems to think the way I do, that hell is a place that God set aside for the devil and his angels, and that we, while on earth, decide who we will follow into whose reward, Satan's or Jesus's. It will become a dwelling place for those who have elected to live without Christ, to separate themselves from God forever. And I believe that the flames, the horror, and the misery of that place is not caused by God, but by the very sin that people elect to take in there with them. The sin that they refuse to have removed from them. The sin that they decided was more important to them in this life than what the afterlife might have to offer. But more than that is that this place will, these people are going to be living in their own sin. But not only in their own sin, but in the sin of all of the others there. But more than this, that place will be completely absent from the attributes of God, from all things good. Now, in my last video, I spoke of how sin separates us from God in a natural way, because sin can't mix with or associate with holiness any more than oil can mix with water. It's just not naturally possible. But God does not like this idea. I mean, he's not pleased by the idea that people are going to go to this place of separation, to this place called hell. So he's provided a way for us to escape that. He offers salvation to whosoever will, and who sincerely come to Jesus Christ for forgiveness of their sins. This is the good news. Thank you for watching.